Alright, back to give my first impressions on another game. Last time was Age of Calamity, this time it's gonna be on Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. The game that started it all for the Fire Emblem franchise, and is ultimately the reason we have so many Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. So thanks for that. While it is the first Fire Emblem game ever, it's actually the first time people outside of Japan are able to play it. That's right, this game was Japan only since its release in 1990, but Nintendo decided to do a really cool thing and completely translate it to English, then release it to the Switch eShop for cheap. Then they completely undid that cool thing by making it a limited release. Thanks, Nintendo. You know, I wonder if they'll ever do this with Mother 3. Scummy business tactics aside, is Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light, that's a long title, any good? Or is there a reason this game stayed lost in localization for so long? If you're new to the franchise, is this a good place to start, or should you begin when the series became more fleshed out? And if you're a veteran of the series, and you somehow haven't purchased it yet, is it good enough to hold your interest, or is it too simplistic compared to more recent releases? Well, allow me to hopefully answer all of those questions as I give you my first impressions of Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. First things first, I want to clarify, this is the first Fire Emblem game I've played as of this video, so this was an entirely new experience for me, and I gotta say, I am thoroughly enjoying my time with the game. I must admit, I initially bought it simply due to its limited release, which just goes to show that Nintendo's scummy tactic is working, but after jumping into the game and getting a good idea on how it works, it's been quite a fun experience for me. The gameplay is fairly simple. You control Marth along with a plethora of other characters and are tasked with going from map to map, defeating every enemy in your way and reaching the castle on the other side of the board. Once you reach said castle, the level is over, but if Marth dies before you're able to do so, you lose. Player input consists of moving your characters, choosing to attack an enemy, or wait if you're unable to do so, and using a character's special ability, such as healing. All battles are devoid of player input and are left completely up to the game. As soon as I started playing it, I thought of how well this would work as a tabletop game, which to my knowledge, besides a fan game, doesn't exist. Nintendo is sleeping on that idea, I tell ya. Each character has their own stats, class, weapons, amount of tiles they can move, and you're given 7 to control at the start, but that number will quickly increase as the game goes on. It seems overwhelming at first, which is further enforced as the game actually doesn't tell you how to play, but it's actually not as complicated as it looks, and I understood how to play very quickly, which is great for newcomers. Going back to those characters I mentioned, something I did not know about the Fire Emblem series is that when characters die, they're gone for good, and I really don't know how to feel about that. On one hand, it teaches you to be careful and to always keep an eye on the health of your troops. On the other hand, I can see this becoming an annoyance quickly, as the first person I lost was basically due to bad luck, and I can see that happening a bit more throughout my playthrough. Luckily, there is a rewind feature that was added to the Switch version, but it isn't as good as it sounds. The way the rewind feature works is by allowing you to go back to the beginning of each turn, meaning if you spend a good 5 minutes or so moving your troops, visiting houses, and taking out enemies, only for, let's say, one guy dies from a crit, you have to redo that whole turn over again. There is a speed up setting to help with that, but it also speeds up the music, so if you wanted to listen to that, tough luck. And even with being able to speed up the gameplay, moving your troops one by one does get tedious after a while. It's definitely a game you should only play in short bursts, like you play a map, put it down for a while, then come back later. Otherwise, you will get burned out, because each level takes about half an hour to complete. Alright, enough ragging on the game, because like I said in the beginning of this video, I have been enjoying my time with it. It's so fun to survey the map and decide what the best course of action is to get Marth and the other characters to the castle in the most efficient way possible. Do you stay in a group and let the enemies come to you, or maybe split them up and try to surround the enemy? Should you take your time and take out each guy one by one, or make a beeline for the castle to end the level quick? Every turn you're making dozens of decisions like those, and it's insanely satisfying to formulate how your turn should go, and that feeling just gets multiplied by 1,000 when you see your plan work after putting it into action. The fights between troops are crazy intense to watch due to the fact that what happens is left completely up to the game and that character's stats. I know I sound crazy for saying that an 8-bit game is intense, but it can get pretty crazy, and the sprites do a good job of conveying what's happening, although some imagination wouldn't hurt either. Speaking of the sprite work, I quite like it. They don't blend in with each other on the map, they liven up the fights quite a bit, and each character has their own unique sprite when surveying their stats. That's pretty cool. I also like the look of the maps. They're all very diverse in set pieces, and even with it being an 8-bit game, there's a great sense of immersion when traversing your characters across them. Overall, this game is a blast. At the time of me writing the script, I've only played the first 3 levels, and now the first 4 at the time of me recording this audio, and the whole time I was writing this, I just kept thinking, I want to play more. And unlike Age of Calamity, I can. I've bought the game, so you can bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna play more as soon as I'm done with this script, which is what I did. If you've never played a Fire Emblem game before like me, this is a perfect introduction to the series. Shocker, the first game in a franchise is the best one to start with. You could have fooled me. And if you're a veteran who for some reason hasn't purchased this yet, buy it. It's dirt cheap and the perfect game to just boot up, play a level, and come back to later. Even with the problems and flaws I mentioned, I completely recommend you add this game to your collection. And that was my first impressions of Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the very long title that is way excessively overly long. And with that all said, I'm Easily Easy, and I'll see you next time.